And we thought of you and big earrings.
You're like, that's fine. The biggest earrings we can, and of course I'm like,
These two women have the most contemporary, you know, the amber designs. It's, you know, I mean, they're good ones, but most of it is just really tired. Like, it's like just old world kind of designs. Yeah. But, yes. Yeah.
yeah, they're really fun.
Yeah.
You know, and then at the end of it,
You can get away with it.
But you can put it in.
Oh, I know. But it's really tough.
and this was just like that briefly seen. It was at the beginning of the summer.
I'm at Eclectic Gallery with Deryk Houston, and I wanted to ask him a few questions around his most recent work. Deryk, this is an amazing scene, and you were telling me a little bit about your adventures here. Can you tell us where we are and how you got there and what kind of experiences you had when you were in this location?
Yeah, well, this is a wilderness area. It's called the Muskoka-Kachika Wilderness, and it's in the northeast of British Columbia, quite far up, very near the top of British Columbia. And I was blessed with being able to meet Wayne Sawchuk, who's one of the key people who's been responsible for saving this area more as a park. He's not the only one. There's a lot of people involved in making that happen. But Wayne,
So is it a preserve now?
it's kind of one of those hybrid type things where they're allowing some industry to be in there. There's a lot more restrictions. The industries just can't go in there and put in a road that easily. It has to be proven.
So how did you get to this location?
I did it two ways. I've been in there twice, and the first time we just flew in by float plane from Muncho Lake. We flew into this area here, set up a camp there. Wayne Sawchuk has a cabin there that he uses for himself. We had to camp out, but we spent quite a few days just exploring the lake area, going on hikes, day hikes and things. And that in itself was spectacular. We thought, wow, you know, this is wonderful. Then one day Wayne said, would you like to take the horses up into the Alpine? And we said, well, you know, we're quite happy here too. But yeah, let's do the hike, you know, like the horseback ride up to the top. So we did. And of course, I guess we had no idea the stunning beauty that was up there. I would have felt that if I hadn't have taken that trip, I wouldn't know the Muskoka-Kachika the same way as I know it now.
So were these pack horses, or were they for riding?
We went with pack horses,
Yes.
but we also had just our regular horses. Like
Yep.
I was on a paint. The name of the horse was, the type of horse was a paint. And so we had our horses, and I mean, it got so incredibly steep going up. You can't believe horses could physically go up that high. Starts off that it gets so steep that you have to hold on to the mane, otherwise the saddle will slide back. And but then there's a certain point where you have to get off completely, and you're going up through cracks in the ground that you're actually having trouble climbing yourself, but there's a horse standing in front of you doing the same climb. And it's so steep, in fact, that you're standing and the horse's hooves is actually right at your face. Like the back hooves of the horse in front of you is there, and he's up, going on up. And for at least an hour of the steepest part, you're sort of looking for which way you're constantly thinking, which way am I going to jump if this horse loses it, you know, yeah. So I'm not a rider, you know, but I've certainly, you know, enjoyed the experience.
So how many days were you with your horses trekking up here?
On this one, we just did the day hikes, you know, but I did get because this is a wilderness area, there is no feed out there in the winter time for the horses, so they take the horses out every time at the end of the season. And so Wayne phoned me and invited me to actually join them, taking the horses back in. and that was a 12-day hike, 12-day ride.
12-day ride.
And we crossed rivers, it was in the spring, and the rivers were very swollen with a lot of water, a lot of volume of water. And we'd be riding across the river on the back of the horse, submerged up to our waist here, on top of the horse.
The horse would just have its head.
The horse would only have its head sticking out of the water.
My gosh.
And it'd be one of the rivers that we crossed was as wide as the Fraser River. I mean, you're talking about some big rivers, right? And you're just basically saying, well, I hope the hell Wayne knows what he's doing, which we actually did. And the horse, yeah, exactly. So I had a lot of respect for both by the time this whole trip was over.
So you also mentioned to me that you encountered bear in the same area.
Yeah, there was grizzly bears, black bears, there was caribou, there was moose, there was a lot of wildlife. We did get, on the 12-day hike going in, we did encounter a grizzly bear in one of the passes, and we were just stopped for lunch, and we were eating our, just like out of a can, and kind of tuna I had, and tuna dribbling down the front of my t-shirt. And then, of course, we spotted this grizzly bear coming down the way. And it came through. I guess what surprised me most was just how quickly it covered the distance. Like it had no idea that we were there, no idea that the horses were there among a little clump of trees having their lunch, protected from the wind. And but when it did get alongside us, it just kind of stopped and looked at you, and then it stood up on its hind legs and sniffed the air, and then it dropped to its all fours, and then it started to charge us, just for a very short time. It probably took about 5 or 6, and then and you're thinking, oh my God, and then it took off. So it was like very, very quick. It was all over quite quickly, and we were saying that, it was. Well, one of the interesting things was that we kept eating and having our lunch just like as if everything was normal, right? You're trying to make this as normal experience as possible. Like you're at the zoo, you're in this cage with the bear in a sense, and you're eating your lunch because everything's normal, right? And as long as things are normal, you don't have to be scared, right? So human nature is kind of funny, right?
So tell me the inspiration for the painting. I mean, those are, just being in that scene was astounding. But your point of view, it seems like you're really on top of one of these ridges looking down this long valley.
We are. We're on a very high viewpoint. I've done this scene maybe, I think, 3 or 4 times, in each one I'll change the viewpoint, and this particular one, it feels more like you're floating above it, whereas maybe some of the other ones you might see more of the foreground of the alpine area. So it changes it dramatically for me as an artist.
With your work, you really, as a landscape artist, I mean, many of your pieces are landscapes. Some of them are more cultivated landscapes, but that you really have a very direct experience with the land, that you're painting. It seems that you have, like just the story that you were telling us. I mean, most artists, have a much more pastoral experience rather than confronting grizzly bears as they're painting. But I find it very enriching that you've taken yourself into such wilderness places and have used this as a source for your paintings.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think that landscapes in general have been misaligned, I think there's, we always try and do this thing, well, is yours plein air painting or whatever, and it's almost like people are trying to apologize for it, like they're, instead of being, understanding or realizing the importance of how profound a landscape can be, they try and put some name to it that kicks it up a notch, and I don't think you need that. I think with landscape, if you've got an honest, pure approach to it, it doesn't need that kind of little fancy name to it. I love painting outdoors, and so I do as often as I can. This one I did more in the studio because just from the logistics of trying to get you couldn't take the paints and the canvas with you up into those mountains, but with a horse. But so anyway, I think as long as your foundation of why you're doing your work, if you understand that and connect it to things that are important to you in your life, then I think you can do very good, strong work, you know. So, and hopefully that's what's came across in something like this.
Well, thank you very much, Deryk. Your work is fabulous, and I encourage everybody to come through the month of March to see Deryk Houston at Eclectic Gallery. Thank you.